Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining me on Up with India, a new morning show that's here airing on WITN 22 every morning in the morning, Monday through Friday. I'll be bringing you diverse stories that you need to know that's happening in the state of Delaware and around the world. Today, I have on a very guest, a community health advocate and activist, Monique Fagan, who took the journey from Delaware to Washington, D.C. for the historic 2020 March on Washington on the 57th anniversary of the March on Washington, where Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his iconic I Have a Dream speech. This year, thousands of people virtually and physically marched on Washington, including Monique Fegans of Newark, Delaware, who was the organizer of the Delaware's People's March. So I'm bringing her on the show now. Very excited to hear more about her story. Thank you so much, Monique, for joining me. How are you?
Hello, how are you?
I am great. I'm getting myself situated over here. Okay, I'm good. I am really happy that you were able to join me for this conversation. A lot of people were able to watch you and see your journey from Delaware to Washington, D.C. virtually, through social media. But it's another thing to talk directly to you and hear more about the motivation behind this march. Now, just for those that don't know a little bit about your background, let's give them some idea and some insight into that. Talk to me about who you are.
Well, my name is Monique Fegans, and I'm Delaware's community wellness advocate. I founded Delaware's first annual fitness festival in Rodney Square. That was 2 years ago. And what it was a community that is fit is a community that thrives. So everyone that participated had to offer their services at 65% off or less. And as well as we offer cardiovascular testing, adjustments, we offer classes, we had local artists perform. And it was really a community day, and I self-financed that. So it wasn't like I had any grants or any outside help. I just woke up one morning, 30 days before, 60 days before it was going to happen, and was like, yeah, I'm going to do this.
Wow.
March.
So community advocacy, civic engagement, this is not something that's new to you. Talk to me about, why you decided to get into this work, because you could be doing anything, but you've decided to help your community. Why?
It's always been a part of me growing up. So I was born in Illinois, and then we grew up in Alaska. I grew up in Alaska, and then we moved to Delaware. So community was very, very important just for survival. We needed our community. We needed our neighbors just to survive the winters, to survive volcano eruptions, earthquakes, or whatever, natural disaster we had going on in Alaska. So when I came to Delaware, it was a little bit harder to find that sort of community. And you have to lead by example. In order to have something change, you have to show the qualities that you wish to see amongst your community, and just be really adamant about that moral compass and what you want to attract and what you want to create. And eventually it just after a lot of time falls into place.
What was your motivation to take this march from Delaware to Washington, D.C.? Like, you just discussed your idea about helping your community, kind of came a couple years ago, but now you decided to take it to a whole nother level. So what was that motivation to march from Delaware to Washington?
The police brutality was like one of the biggest motivators, and it was an action. I need to make myself as uncomfortable as possible. Like, how can I show the world that this is a problem, and how can I sacrifice my body and my vessel to show like how serious this problem is? Like, and like other freedom fighters, they fast, or they go without food, or they, there's different things. And for me, it was like, I walk. Like, I'm gonna walk to DC. And excuse me for being tired, because I've been at the Philly encampments all week.
And I want to talk about that as well. I did see that on your social media, but yes, continue.
So as soon as I made it up in my mind, 3 weeks later we hit the road, and it's just a pull to do something. Like, it's like everyone feels it, everyone has it, but like it's just a strong pull in my heart that I have to do something. I have to make myself as uncomfortable as possible.
What was the message that you wanted to send to your community as well as to the world when you decided to take this march? What was that message?
we had 7 demands. So the first demand was to reopen and investigate Jeremy McDowell's case, as well as the lynchings that have occurred in Dover, Delaware, that were deemed suicides, and without like investigation. And they weren't suicides. They were kids from Wesley. They were showing up in trees or showing up in the lake, and no investigation was done. So those are my first 2 priorities. The second one was to unite Delaware activists to a mutual cause. We all have, our agendas and our organizations, but for me, it's people before agendas, people before property, people over organizations, and like we just need to unite on a couple mutual causes to get work done. The third one is to free prisoners of nonviolent crimes, especially those that are drug related, because our prisoners are perfect examples of quarantine. And we've had, this number might be a little outdated, but from the last time I checked, it was 9 deaths from COVID in Delaware. And they are the example of quarantine. So if they are getting sick, it's because the COs are bringing it to the officers. And if they have nonviolent crimes or like crimes that like they're waiting for judgment or things like that, they just need to be free. The fourth one is to unite the people, like, Black America, Islanders, Africans, all us brown people need to, have a mutual call to action as well. Also making sure there's mutual aid and fresh produce available in our community. And the most important one for me is that activists aren't being charged for civil disobedience for challenging oppressive systems. That's a big one, because a lot of activists have been charged.
Why is that so important to you?
When we stand up, just for wearing Black, we could be charged for gang-like behavior. There's activists that are facing charges, federal charges and federal crimes, because the government puts property before the people, and they want to protect the property over protecting the people. You have people who are being silenced, people who have to be hushed, or people who are like threatened and scared for their lives because they stood up against oppressive systems and and racism and white supremacists. I personally get hate mail and death threats on the regular between all my social media platforms. So it's not easy to put yourself at such a risk to fight for freedom.
Sure. In the names of people that you may not even be directly connected to. I mean, some people talk about, marching for George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. You brought up Jeremy McDowell. For those that don't know that name, in the state of Delaware, who is Jeremy McDowell, and why was that an important person for you to personally march for during your walk to Washington?
Jeremy McDowell was, and may he rest in power, a victim of police brutality. September 23rd is the date where we statute of limitations. So it was important that his name left our state. It was important that his name left our state, and his story was told over and over and over again. He was a quadriplegic that was shot 17 times by the police officer because a woman called in and believed that someone had shot himself. So it was a mental health call, which, as we know, the PD is not trained for those types of calls. So last cop on the scene, Shotgun Joe, went to his trunk, pulled it out, a paraplegic shot 17 times for a mental health call. And that's go ahead.
And so that was, one of the main people that you were in fact marching for. Organizing this march and putting it together, how did this kind of come about?
It just happened. Like, I happened to ask the right people. The right people were in my tribe. They put me in front of, we call him Godfather. He marches across the nation annually. He helped me with the route. And then, we had a few volunteers that started with us, but we finished with Simba and I on the march. And Simba's 14. So it was me and Simba marching from 99 miles from here from Delaware to D.C.
How long did it take you to, Simba is the young person who accompanied you on this march. How long did it take for you to get from Delaware to DC?
We started on the 20th and we arrived the 27th. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. We started on the 20th and we arrived at the White House the 27th. And then we stayed
On that, and you stayed until
yep,
when?
the 29th.
On that journey, I was watching on Instagram, there was nights when it was raining, there was nights when you guys, were tired and exhausted. Talk to me about some of the emotions that you felt on the journey to get there.
That was a mental flex for real. Like that, the day we did 22 miles, like
Mhm.
almost broke me. Like I had a panic attack because it just brings like out everything. Like when you push yourself and your body, when you push your body to that level of exhaustion, you push your mind past any capacity you thought it could do, it just like lets things out and lets like all these stresses out and let's all like it was hard. And then we
Mhm.
have people honking and people, yelling all sorts of names. Some things great and positive and encouraging, and
Mhm.
some things like that can't be repeated on TV. And but it was all a part of, the mission is that every step, like I don't know how we did 22 miles. It'd just be like, oh, we're at mile 7, all right, 14. All right. And the last 8 miles is like the worst. Like they take
Mhm.
forever. And then that last like 2 miles, 2.5 miles, like you get like the second, third wind that kicks in, and then like all the pain in your feet go away, all the cramping goes away. Like it was. And Simba was living his best life. He said he was like, "This is a business trip. Like I'm living my best life. I'm vibing. Like, he's a young justice. Like he loves it. We loved
What
it.
what kept you going personally in your mind, as far as your brand Ready Set Fit goes? You talk about fitness being a very, important aspect that everyone should, invest in just keeping yourself physically fit, and that's something that you do. So how were you able to stay mentally fit throughout this journey?
99 miles. So like in my head, I just committed to it. Like it's going to happen. We're gonna get it done. Rain, snow, lightning, whatever. It 1 mile at a time, one
Mhm.
meal at a time, like one rep at a time. Like
Mhm.
it's just the pace. And then you
Mhm.
just lock in. Like there's something that flips in your head, especially happens when I lift. Like when I'm locked in, it's like I'm locked in and there's
Mhm.
nothing that could like apps can get in my way at all.
Who were some of the freedom fighters that you know, look up to, or that you relate to, that, in the past have took similar journeys, across states to make a point, to take a stance? Who are some of those that are inspiring to you?
Lucy Parsons is one of my favorites. One of my favorite quotes from her. She's an anarchist. She said she's more dangerous. They said about her that she's more dangerous than 1,000 rioters, just
Mm,
because of her voice and because of the power behind it and the truth behind her voice. What pushed me mentally with like, when I wanted to stop and when my body hurt or I was hungry, like it's just my ancestors. Like they did so much more and survived so much more. Um, if I was a slave, I probably would have been a dead slave. Like
mm,
that's how like I knew I would be the one fighting. I knew the one that I would be the one putting my body um, between um, between someone and an oppressor and the oppressive. Like I always knew I was able and strong enough to do that.
mm,
And it's just about putting it into action and not when it's comfortable or not when it's convenient. It's like when a vulnerable population needs your strength and your courage and like being limitless and fearless, like it'd be selfish for me to hold that to myself and not
mm.
give it and give it.
What was the most important lesson you learned about yourself on the journey?
Um, Patience, like extreme, like a level of patience that like I never thought I could have. It was a really complex operation with many, many pieces, many types of communication. My phone's blowing up. Then I have to make sure we're on route. Then I have Simba, the 14-year-old. Make sure he eats. I eat. We sanitize. We don't get COVID. Like you know what I mean. He's safe. I'm
Mhm, mhm,
um,
mhm,
to make sure we have a system where we're like, all right, here's an exit on the highway. There's an exit off. There's about a quarter mile of like 18-wheelers going zoom, zoom. Like we just had to like have like this like code that we lived by on the road. And once we got into that routine, everything was so easy. But the communication between getting our provisions from one hotel to the next hotel, organizing that and making sure the hotel can hold it, and then having to get to the hotel in X amount of miles in that same day without having to march at nighttime, because nighttime is, and then it was just communication. Like my communication skills, like were here when I started and now they're like here. Like I learned a lot about that.
And, it took you guys, an X amount of days to get from Delaware to DC. You talked to me a little bit about the reception of people that you were getting on your journey. Some people were in support of it. Some people were not, saying not so great things. Did you ever fear for your life at any moment on this journey because of what you were doing?
Oh, yeah. Like I had a very bad dream the night that Kenosha happened. Is that how you say that? Kenosha? Kyle? That night I had a dream that protesters were getting like shot and I was running around trying to protect them. And I woke up and I look at the news and like people are dying. Like people are literally dying just for marching and just for standing up for people. And it blew my mind. Like, but then it was just like I had to flip it, like, we still have to finish. Like, like you might die doing this. Like, and that's the consequences. Like there's consequences for everything, whether they be positive or good consequences, or whether they, push you forward or hold you back. And like I just accepted it. Like as soon as in my head I accepted the consequence, like I would do anything I had in my power to protect Simba. And then if that mean that my life had to go, that's just what it would have been.
Wow. So wow. Very powerful. As a Black woman, does it upset you or frustrate you that you are still fighting this fight that your ancestors fought? I was watching, again, you brought up Kenosha. I was watching when Jacob Blake's father, excuse me, not his father, but his lawyer was speaking during a press conference shortly after he was admitted to the hospital. And he said, when is enough enough? How long are we going to continue this conversation, this fight? Do you get frustrated at times because you're still doing this?
I think when it's time to pivot, and change strategy, there's boots on the ground that's ready. And I believe that we're getting more organized and we're learning about our strengths and weaknesses as individuals. And the more time I spend on the ground, the more time I'm out with vulnerable populations, the more time like I spend outside of just social media in a Black square, like, and that's my solidarity. Like the more layers I shed of myself and the more things I no longer need, because there's people who don't even have the basic human needs. The more I see people like me that care. And the more like, the more the tribe grows, and you just see it, and you have to be there, and you have to like, not just, everyone has a role in the revolution, of course, but the role needs to be consistent and constant and steady. And then, that's when you'll start building your community.
When you guys got to Washington, what was going through your mind once you stepped foot on the street? What was going through your mind?
I was like, yo, we made it. And then what was crazy was we talked to some of Breonna Taylor's family members. Those are the first people that like we met when we got there.
Wow.
And then
what was that moment like?
It was just like, they want to talk to us because we marched from Delaware to DC. Like we're that, like, it was just like, dang, what we did was a big deal. Like, you know what I mean? It was.
You didn't realize the gravity of it until maybe that moment.
Yeah. Like, and I have the chills like right now on my arms. Like, I didn't realize how big it was until I got back and until I got there. I was like the mission, get it done, the mission, 20 miles is safe, 50 miles out that eat, sleep, check in, like shower, get up, like, you know, like we were on the mission, like we had signs, flags, like, you know, but it was really not, we were so tired that like we would just put our heads down and just walk and walk. Like it wasn't like, you know how you see some marches where they're like, you know, Black Lives Matter, Black Lives, like there was
along the way.
Because we had to reserve all that energy. Like we could not spend any of that. Like
right.
We had our signs, but then we got there and there's a chant that we use that, you know, isn't best for TV, but it's on Instagram, but sat down on the White House lawn. And I was looking around and people were taking pictures and I kind of got irritated that like, this is a movement. This is a revolution. This is not a photo op. This is not like, you know, like a stop at a museum or like, you know, like people are dying here. There's children in concentration camps. Like, you know, Japan is like protesting. Like, you know, this is a worldwide movement. Like we passed 100 days. Like it's a movement. It's a revolution. So then I got on the megaphone and me and Simba did one of our chants that like we've been holding in the arsenal. Because it's not really appropriate for like marches with families and stuff, but it was got in the megaphones and yelled at the White House and let off some steam, and it was therapeutic. Like it was so therapeutic just to like face the White House with the megaphone and just say the things that we said. Like,
what was the message that you wanted to get across to, I'm sure the reason why you were in front of the White House was because you wanted to say something to President Donald Trump. What was that message that you were trying to get across in, you know, in doing that?
The message to Donald Trump, I don't really think I have a personal message to him because it is a, you know, there's other decisions that have to be made, you know what I mean, for people. But the message to the world and the message to the people and the message to vulnerable populations is like, it's time we fight back. Like time we stand our ground, not allow our neighbors to be hurt or to go without. And you know, we say there's all these rich people in America and $40 million will end hunger in the US. But yet no one is giving that money out of all the multimillionaires in the nation. Why? Because it's control. If you have people hungry, dependent upon systems and government systems, you're able to control those people. So the moment that we are responsible for one another and the moment that we look out for one another and provide each other the things that we need, and then like the government kind of loses that control. You become a part of like the resistance while still feeding people and giving people like diapers and Narcan and fresh produce and shelter, like education, healthcare, like all of that. I had to, from the encampments, like, you know, the medics are tired. We're tired. They would do around the clock security. I do mostly later nights. Then we have, you know, residents that are there that have their needs and their concerns. And then, you know, it's again another complex operation that the march prepared me for, to be here and to manage a whole bunch of different groups. Like, and it's so beautiful how it comes together.
And part of, you know, just this past weekend, but the weekend that you guys got back from Washington, D.C., how did the community in Delaware receive you? What was that moment like?
When we got back that Saturday, when we took the train from DC to Delaware, came right into Wilmington, right to Harriet Tubman, and Kobe Owens was there to like, you know, greet us. And it was a perfect way to come back to Delaware, like just like one person, like my mom, and like, you know, get Simba back home. Like it was enough. Like had I came into a big thing, I probably would have been like overwhelmed. And then the following weekend, we did another protest
Mm.
against the Wilmington PD. And that was like, that was really successful because people know who I am and what I stand for. And they know I'm not about like the photo op or like, I really care about the community and I'm willing to fight for the community. And like, I have a level of risk that I can take, like I can challenge the oppressive systems without having like a background,
Mm.
that like, if I get in trouble again, I'm locked up. Like, like
What was the objective of that protest? Why did you guys put that protest together once you got back? Was it to help
officer,
further your mission in some of the demands that you were asking for, or was this completely unrelated?
no, it's all related. So what I like to do is in Delaware, I go down to Dover and protest and march. I come to Wilmington, I do Newark, like, like HOCAS and marches. So all I do is like support these young activists, these new activists, these people who have that like fire in them that want to march. And I just help keep them safe. So, I give them a little bit of a rundown of how the march is going to go, like, like just protest marshal. There's different positions that each person plays when you march. And I always stay to the back and make sure that the person who organized has their moments up front and they're leading the march. And I make sure that no protester is left behind. So depending on what type of march it is, like, kids can be up front or kids stay in the middle. It just depends on the approach from, the police and like, anti-protesters, because we can be peaceful all day long. And then like anti-protesters will come and start agitating. And then that's when we have to shift, like put the kids and children and the vulnerable people in the middle, and then protect them on the outside and then get them out, at that point. And then we have like the people who are strong and who are mentally strong, we continue the march,
Mhm. Did
And
you
then
feel like your voice was heard that day? Do you feel like the Wilmington Police Department got the message of what you guys were trying to convey or get across?
not at all. I think they were tossing footballs up on top of the roof. I do community work, and we do a free community meal every Saturday, and with Food Not Bombs. I'm a member of Food Not Bombs, and we do a community meal every Saturday, and Wednesdays we do a free market. And one of the community members like was walking around, and he came up to me and asked me for money, and I gave it to him, and because I know I recognize him from being in the community, and the police point at him and laugh at him.
Hmm.
But they're supposed to be community members, community like
And this was
yes.
happening during your protest?
So he knew I was protesting and marching, and but like because I'm active in the community, he was comfortable enough to ask me for some money. And like, of course, he wanted more than what I gave him. Like, yo, that's all I got today. So here, take it. And then like, people are looking, the cops were looking like, this is what community is. Like, this is what like, anarchism is. This is what like we do. We look out and we keep each other safe. And we never let we never take more than what we need. Like, you know what I mean? Like if there's like a big pot of like vegetables and fruits, we're not let me have it all. We never take more than what we need, and we always make sure we leave something behind for the next person.
Police brutality has been a conversation that has been around, but it's bubbled up, since the death of George Floyd. And, protests like you had, just that weekend that you were discussing and many others around the world. The goal is to somehow, get just that are affected by it. But for some reason, your message isn't being heard. Why do you think that your message is not being taken seriously? Or do you feel like it's being taken seriously?
I feel like it just depends on who you talk to and what groups and organizations you talk to. You have more, groups that may take a passive role. You have more groups that will, be the resistance and protect the people. And this is just even like if you think about the Klan, they are a resistance group that is founded upon hate, that feels like they need to protect their ideals. You think of these militia, like Kyle from Kenosha with the militia group that he was, the hate militia group that he was part of. Like it just depends on who you're addressing, and what systems you're supporting and what systems you're not supporting. I guess
Well,
that would be
let me try to make it a little more clear. Why do you think your mission isn't being taken seriously by the Wilmington Police Department or the government
oh,
that's here in Delaware exactly?
they haven't been the pressure. I feel like the pressure is different and the pressure is going to be applied differently. And I'm all in. I'm totally invested, and I've never invested myself in something that hasn't gotten a positive probable outcome. So the
Mhm,
pressure's on. So if the police, Wilmington PD, don't take me serious now, they're going to take me serious in a couple months, and they're going to take me
mhm,
serious when they start fixing the problems that they have.
mhm, mhm. Did
And
you expect for most of your demands to start, for answers to come to you, or did you know that this was going to be something that was going to take a while?
I've been at this work for years. So I went to Carabel Academy, and there was no Black History Month. So in sixth grade, I
Mhm,
signed a petition, was on the announcements from like the kindergarten to the seniors with a Black History Month fact every day during that month. And I know people have different opinions on Black History Month, but for me, it was important, like that I share my history. So
mhm,
um, I'm some pressure, and I know like I'm willing to risk it, like risk whatever risk I need to take to apply that pressure to Wilmington PD. Like, Wilmington PD is going to feel the pressure, and they're going to have to answer to the decisions that they've done. And I'm just not playing around with anymore with like my kings and my queens in Delaware and the people in
mhm,
Delaware.
mhm,
Um,
mhm.
it, it's that era is done. It's done. Like,
Mhm, mhm. And you're not only focused on the rights or civil rights of those in Delaware, but also in Philadelphia. Talk to me a little bit about your weekend in Philadelphia and your what you were there to accomplish, a part of that day and moment.
so, um, Philadelphia has an encampment, two encampments, JTD and Teddy. These people are displaced people, whether it be from COVID and they had a house 6 months ago, or whether or not they're living on the streets. That doesn't matter. They're still vulnerable people. There's still people that need, you know, housing.
Mhm,
So this is the third eviction notice. I couldn't make the first two because of my march that I organized, but the encampment is full of so many positive people and so many gems and so many brilliant people that just are enduring a tough time. And the city, for every person who in the encampments that is there, the city has 4 houses available.
wow. How
And
many
they're
people are there?
um I don't think I'm at liberty to like, say those
But
numbers.
it's a lot of
And a
people, you
lot.
would
Yeah,
say.
it's a lot.
So
It's
that
like
would not be enough to, help them. 4 houses would not be enough. Is that what you're trying to
no,
say?
no, for every one person that's in the encampments, right?
There's 4 houses available. I get you what you're
4 empty houses that aren't
saying.
being used. 4
Right,
empty.
right, right,
Yeah.
right, right.
So there's a surplus in the city,
Mm,
and they're saying that the Wilmington police might as well be the police are trying to evict them without giving them housing.
mhm,
So this is when, we come and people come to make sure that they don't get evicted without their demands being met. So I'm there to, keep an eye out. I like it's organized. You have the encampment leaders, then you have like, people coming in with art, people coming in with provisions. We have kitchen, showers that come in and out, porta potties. Like we all have a role to play in this. And when you arrive to the camp, like you fall into your role. So, my role is to, walk around, make sure everyone's safe. I carry, first aid supplies and, Narcan with me, just in case someone might need it. I really don't get involved with resident issues. unless it becomes like a safety issue, like, you know what I mean? But, you know, it's a community that the city of Philadelphia has all these people under high stress. Like they never know when they're going to get evicted. They never like it's like they come every day at a certain time and say you must get out or you'll get arrested. And some of these people cannot get arrested or they'll be in jail for a long time. Like
And then there's another problem.
yeah, and like it's not the justice system just isn't fair. Like you know, like and so certain people get called to do certain roles and I just go there and make sure that, you know, no one's taking pictures of them from the outside, like it's a photo app where it's like, oh hey, look at me doing my civil justice work. Click and then out, you know, like
Mhm.
they have a right to their privacy. I talk to different people, get to know them, get to know like, you know, them as a human, not as a person in need. I even have like a little Batman I'm supposed to take to Teddy that one of the kids left over. So I have to find and it's just like we don't have, the way we communicate is like so beautiful. It's just like, hey, so and so's here looking for so and so, like they have something, and like boom, someone comes, someone comes, someone comes. Like the communication is just so like archaic almost, like you know, like it's like taking a step back and
Mhm.
like
Mhm.
and like trusting, like and we'll have to be like we're gonna trust,
Mhm.
like. But then we know when people, you know, sneak in that are there to disrupt or make the encampment like look bad. Like there are people that will purposely cause problems.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
then like, you know, it could be like not safe anymore. Like so we have to like keep an eye out for those types of people.
Do you often get mistaken for being that type of disruptor? I know, oftentimes when we're watching, protests that are happening, there are people out there that are peacefully protesting. There are people out there that are peacefully trying to protect. And then you have people that are not, you know. When you get mistaken for someone who is just trying to cause disruption for no reason, how does that make you feel?
So to be called an agitator and to be called a disruptor is always provoked for me. It's always after a violation of rights or civil rights. It's always after a right was broken by the police, you know? So or it always is provoked by an anti-protester. So I just don't go out there agitating. Of course, you know, the media spins a narrative about like Antifa and anarchists and, you know, ACAB and in situations where de-escalation was needed, that's kind of what I do is de-escalate situations. I know in DC, I saw at night, someone dropped off fireworks
Mm.
and I keep an eye on those and make sure that like no one touches them or like
Why
if
do you think that they were dropped off?
to cause more disruption. But for me and me being a part of, you know, the resistance and me being a rebel, I'm not I'm not there to get people hurt. I'm there to protect people by
Mhm.
any means necessary. So like I'm going to make sure that like if someone needs a babysitter and it's a little bit unstable, like you're entitled to say how you feel, react how you want to react. But when it comes to being a danger to yourself and the community, that's when like, you know, a babysitter will go over or someone will go over, not really speak so much, just be there like, you know, you got support, and you got support. And sometimes all it takes is touch to like get people to be back grounded. But if I'm an agitator, I want to be the best agitator that, you know, they've seen then, if it's going to come out to change. And almost every protest, march, sit-in, vigil that I've been a part of has resulted in a meeting or has resulted in something in forward movement. So,
Mhm.
I mean, call me, I get death threats. I get called black supremacist. I get called like they're sick of hearing my voice. I get told to put more clothes on. Like I've been told it all. So if I'm an agitator and I just am what I am and
What
you
do
know
you
change
think
them.
it's going to take to actually change this system, of police brutality and inequality? What do you think is going to actually change things, Monique?
Um, Philly, and I think there's another encampment, maybe one more. They're like no police zones, so there no police are welcome.
Do you think
And
that's the solution of absolutely no police?
I think police is an occupation and a job title that operates with certain systems and systems that, have evolved over 100 years. And I think when something is tired and played out, I think, a wise leader, someone who, cares about evolving humanity, would know that that system's just tired out compared to like the rest of the nation, the rest of the world. Like the American system is tired. Um, and I think that system should be destroyed and something else should be come out of it. Like I think that system should be destroyed and something else could come out of it. I think prisons should be destroyed and not be a place for slave-like labor, not be a place where people are making higher up powers are making money for prison systems, not be a funnel for our students who get in like fights at school or like just, regular childhood drama and they're growing up and working through their emotional processes, not for them not to be funneled into like the jail system right outside of school. And we all know that prison is not a place of rehabilitation at all.
Mhm.
So I feel like once people have liberty and freedom, then I I feel like we're dealing with mental health issues at that point, which need a different type of service. And then we're separating it from people acting out of survival or people acting out of necessity and need. And like, like people being put in different types of communities that are being policed whereas other communities aren't being policed.
Mhm.
So for me, I know this might sound really crazy, but like if a white kid in school is like, yo, I'm sick of this shit, I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. If a white kid's at school, yo, I'm sick of this, I'm tired, I'm running out my classroom because I don't know if he might, like they might shoot the school. But if you notice, the police aren't in those schools where there's high school shootings, high instances of like bomb threats, shooting threats, and all that.
Well, there
They're in
were some instances of schools that had police officers. For some reason, they couldn't stop it, but there were some. But to your point, I understand what you're saying.
so like it becomes another funnel system for our vulnerable brown kids. That's all I'm saying.
Mhm.
Instead of it being, that's why I just don't think police and prisons are an adequate tool for humanity any longer.
Do
Um,
you think that most activists and advocates are on the same page when it comes to what you believe will help to change the system? Did you hear any of that during the speeches, during the March on Washington, that kind of, coincide with what you believe as well?
I didn't really hear the speeches. I was with, the people, like, you know what I mean? Like, yes, those speeches are like, you know, I can hear them anytime. Like, you know what I mean? I can replay that. Like, but like to be there amongst like the masses and the people who felt the need, the urgency to come to DC, I feel like
Mhm.
those were the people that I would never probably get the opportunity to speak to again. Like, like, or hear
Mm,
from or actually have a conversation with. So I met a lot of different groups and a lot of different people. And what makes a movement so dangerous is when a bunch of people can agree on one or two things, not
right.
necessarily agree on strategy or like technique or like like not necessarily agree on the ins and out, but agree on one or two fundamental things about liberty and freedom. Then we can start to do some serious damage and start to unravel and unhinge these systems that be. And
Mhm.
if I'm deemed, bad for it, or I'm deemed to be an agitator or a rebel or whatever they think about Antifa and anarchism, like I'm cool with that as long as I'm getting vegetables to people that need vegetables, as long as people in the encampment are safe and have a place to be until the government decides, or if ever decides to do the right thing, or there's more pressure that needs to be applied because I'm not playing around. Like I'm really not. Like it's not it's not right. It's not fair. There's people suffering and people that are living at exotic, luxurious lives. and $40 million can end hunger in the US. Like, that's it. There's
I think
40.
it's amazing. I think it's amazing what you do, Monique. Being able to join arms with others and uplift your community. The work that you do with Food Not Bombs, I don't want us to leave without talking about that and, the impact that you've made in Delaware doing that. So talk to me about that organization and why you felt the need to join and again, continue uplifting the community.
I think I'm not a joiner, like a group joiner. I'm not like, like a sorority person, like, like I'm a lone wolf. So when I linked up with Food Not Bombs, it was through, again, supporting other protests, supporting other marches. And then, you get to know people. I went to a couple community meals and, built relationships. I built relationships with Bellevue Farms. And there's another, initiative that we're working on with an urban farming board that is in the works, but that's not like, it's not there yet. But, every Wednesday it was just like consistent, produce, groceries. We're on the east side. You come in with your bag. Sometimes we even get like duck eggs and stuff like donated. So like, it's about like exposing the community like to like different healthy options. And then Saturday, we have a community meal that's free and it's always vegan or vegetarian because we think that, we want the people to eat healthy foods. And then there was a call, then we're hands on the community, and there was a call that the men needed some underwear. And I don't really believe that, anyone should have used underwear, like hand-me-down clothes, yes. Like, so we get clothes donated, household items donated, but like underwear is like, a thing. So on my social media, I was like, boom, 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 and almost raised 200 pairs of underwear in a week. If someone needs like a size
That's
9
awesome.
pair of shoes,
That's awesome.
they'll come, thank you. They'll come up to us and say, hey, I need a size 9 sneaker. Do you have that? The next week, like we find it for them. So it's not about like, why I love Food Not Bombs is because it's selfless and it's necessary work. Like, and we all care so much about the community that we're serving that like, and we read a lot, like we read books, like we have a book club. Food Not Bombs is a worldwide organization that's been around for over 100 years as well. And, it started, with a protest and, saying that it's Food Not Bombs because the US has occupation in so many countries in the world. And I think they spend $708 billion on military occupation. But again, $40 million would end hunger in the United States. So that's why it's called Food Not Bombs.
What's next for you, Monique, as far as your journey goes? You have so much going on, it seems like every day you're out there fighting for justice and for the rights of others. What's next for you on this journey?
I mean, I don't know, like wherever the road takes me, like wherever the need is, like I just want to be able to travel and be able to go wherever I'm most needed, wherever my skill sets are most needed, wherever there's injustices to be fought, like, yeah, just wherever. Like I'm down for the cause. And what is there, whatever the need is, wherever the need is, wherever I have to go, I'm ready to go.
How can people keep up with you?
Instagram is _Monique Nicole _ and it's like MoniqueNicole. And then Twitter, I'm kind of like getting better at Twitter. TikTok. Twitter and TikTok is Meerkat for Justice, and the number 4. And then Facebook is Monique Fegans.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Monique, for sitting down and having this conversation with me. Again, I am super grateful and proud of the work that you're doing to help uplift your community. I wish you nothing but the best as you continue forward on whatever's next. Like you said, I think we'll just have to be following you on social media to find out.
Let me know. Like, people, let me know what you need. Like, I'm here for everyone. So if it's a protest you need help organizing, a march, let me know. I'm there. And then if anyone can come out to the Philly encampment, 22nd and Ben Franklin, we've been holding down that parkway for like 3 months. It's no cop zone, do art, you can bring music. There's a list. It's camp, Instagram, it's at Camp JTD. They have like their donations listed. If you're more comfortable donating to my Cash App, it's the link in my bio. So that's really it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Monique.
All
We're
right.
going to head out. I am very, very, very happy to hear that there are young, African American women and men that are deciding to stand up and fight for what they believe is right. Monique Fegans is one of those people, and she is continuing her journey. And I want to make sure that you guys keep up with her. So make sure that you follow her on social media and see all the great things that she has going on. Thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of Up with India, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning.